Alrighty, all you, Ryan.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. So great to see everybody here somewhat virtually tonight. I have quite a few slides that I'm going to go through, but what I will do is move through at a pretty quick pace, just in the interest of time. I know you guys likely had dinner or you had a meeting, and now this is another thing in your night. And then certainly you have hopefully a little bit of a break time tomorrow and a little bit of downtime over the Easter weekend. And I know it's been a really, really rough semester and really difficult and challenging academic year. So I appreciate everybody participating tonight. I'll actually share the slide deck right after the presentation, send it out to the entire club. And if you have any questions at all whatsoever, you're always welcome to reach out to me. So a little bit of background for myself. I actually oversee the entire Center for Career Development. So the 5th floor Duncan Student Center, the Associate Vice President. So we have about 30 different staff members who work in the Career Center, or the Morello Family Center for Career Development, as we refer to it. And it includes everything from your traditional career counselors who help students who are at kind of the early stages of discerning their interests and values and skills and personality, all the way up to students who know exactly what they want to do and they want to prepare for interviews, work on their resumes, cover letters, learn how to network, etc. We actually also have an employer engagement team that works with developing relationships with alums and recruiters. And then we also have 3 staff members who are based strategically around the nation. So we have one in California who's full-time. We have another full-time staff member in Washington, D.C., and we also have a part-time staff member who's down in Houston, Texas. And all of us together care deeply about our students. The reason we exist is to support you and help with your career development. So what I'm going to share tonight is kind of a high-level overview, but we're also going to dig deep into themed entertainment and give you some ideas and some leads. Hopefully some of the information here is new, or maybe you haven't thought about it before, or maybe it's information you've thought about before, but maybe there's going to be a new spin to it. So hopefully we'll debunk a few myths along the way. We'll give you some resources, give you some actual action steps that you can take, whether you're a first-year student all the way up to a graduating senior who's still trying to secure your future. So in the interest of time, let's go ahead and move on forward here and make sure my slides are working. There we go. So what you see on the screen right now is what we refer to as our vision statement. And our vision statement really guides our work. And really those 3 words in gold are the focus of what we emphasize. And it's really about discerning, discovering, and pursuing. It's not just about looking for a job, applying for it, putting an application into a big black hole and assuming that just because you have a Notre Dame degree, somebody's going to find value in you and say, I want to hire you. The way the competitive landscape is right now in America and around the world, frankly, is that it is pretty challenging. And when you think about themed entertainment, and I think it's no surprise to anybody on this call in particular, this is an industry that got hit very, very hard through the pandemic. So a lot of it is still on the rebound. A lot of it is still uncertain. A lot of small companies likely had some very significant financial challenges, and they're really trying to reinvent themselves. So it's also an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for innovation, and it's a chance where you can really make a difference. So if you're interested in getting into themed entertainment, there's a lot of different types of roles, positions, ways that you can get involved. It's actually a common story that I share with our prospective students, where I say we get so fixated on brands and we think about Disney and Cedar Fair and other places that are just brands that we recognize, and we think those are the best of the best jobs, and that's really where I need to work if I don't want to work in themed entertainment. And what they don't realize is it's really the Tate Towers and the other organizations behind the scenes who are actually making all that run. They do all the concerts, they do all the pyrotechnics, they do all the mechanicals. Those brands are important, but there are many other organizations that are actually a part of that themed entertainment culture. So what we want to share with students is it always has to start with self-reflection. So many times you have Notre Dame students who come to the university and they say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an investment banker because that's what I see online. That's what I see of college students who I know, and it looks like they're making a lot of money, or it looks like they're very happy. And really what we want you to do is study what you love, find out what your passions are, and realize that your major doesn't define career success. Your major doesn't pigeonhole you into particular careers. It's all about the actions that you take. So the other theme that we want to share with you is that job search skills are transferable. So what you learn tonight, you can really transfer over into a lot of different industries. What you need to realize is certain industries start very early. So if you want to be an investment banker, you want to be a management consultant, you got to starting probably your first semester sophomore year, second semester sophomore year, because those recruiting cycles are very fast. The beauty of themed entertainment, the beauty of many of our engineering careers, you have options, creative careers as well. You don't have to get locked in or make any decisions early on. And certainly it gets back to what are your interests and what are your values, and really what are you most passionate about? So this picture here is really something that I use on a very regular basis, and it sums up what our model is. We're going to teach you how to fish. We're not just going to tee up an alum and say, hey, this alum's hiring. Why don't you go ahead and reach out to him and see if you can get him your resume and see if you can get an internship or a job. After your second or third job, there is no career center. There is nobody that you can walk up to and say, hey, do you guys have a job posting board? It's LinkedIn, it's Indeed, it's Google Jobs, it's company directories. But most importantly, it's all about networking. If there's one thing you take out of this presentation tonight, it's the value and the importance of networking. And that's what we want to teach you. A lot of students see career fairs. This is actually before a lot of your times. This is when we had the career fair in the stadium concourse. And there's this perception that, oh, you just get internships and jobs at career fairs. Career fairs are helpful for discernment. Sometimes you make a connection. Rarely will you find that internship or job right out of meeting somebody at a career fair. So when we think about themed entertainment, we think about a lot of the different career paths that folks in this club may be interested in. You may not see them at a career fair. And that's normal for a lot of students. So don't get discouraged if you think career fair is really what I want to focus on. What we want you to realize is there's a process. And this bullet point slide could provide probably the best synopsis or summary for you. And once again, it's always starting with yourself. Who am I? Develop your brand, and that brand transcends a lot of different platforms, which we'll talk about. But it's also about learning about the industry and understanding what the opportunities are that are out there. We're going to talk a little bit about this being competitive piece. And then once again, you're going to see this network word over and over and over. Centralized resource that we have, you'll get this in the slide deck when I send it out, undergradcareers.edu. One of the resources we have is a PDF guide. Under the Getting Started tab, you'll see a reference to the Career Development Guide. All the topics you see on the screen are included in this. So if you're just getting started for the first time, whether you're a first-year student or a junior, and you decide, I just don't know where to start, this is a handy little booklet for you. It has also some self-assessments in there as well. When we talk about discernment, we talk about VIPs or VIPS, your values, your interests, your personalities, and skills. This is really that self-reflection. And when we think about these words, here's 3 questions that we use through the Moreau first year experience class when we have a couple of weeks with students. We want you to think about, what do you enjoy? What are you good at? And if you're not sure what you're good at, ask your friends, ask your parents, ask your professors, ask members in your club. What are you really good at? But those 2 questions also have to be answered and intersected with, what does the world need you to be? The world is a big word, right? So for a lot of people, the world is an employer. So when I think of myself, what do I really love about my job? I love working with students. I love doing data reports, love working in Tableau. If I had my druthers, I'd be on Tableau for 10 hours a day because I just enjoy it because it's a creative outlet. But if I do it for 4 days in a row, I get completely burned out. I just need to stay away from it. Yet when I work with students on a day-to-day basis, you never get burned out because every student is unique. So I know in my mind that what do I enjoy? Students, projects, data. What am I good at? Data, working with students, solve problems. What does the world need? I don't know what the heck the world needs me to be, but I know there's plenty of jobs at colleges and universities where students say, I need help. And that help can come in student activities, multicultural student programs and services, Office of Student Enrichment. And in some cases, it's the Career Center or the Office of Community Standards. This is an area that I found my niche. And I didn't know about this career path until second semester of my senior year in college. There are a lot of opportunities out there that you may not even ever be aware of. So the reason I share that is to keep your options open and keep your mind open. But what we also want you to do is think about the future. And when we think about that future, it's what makes you unique. When we talk about being unique, this is what's really going to make you stand out. So when you think of, let's say you're an engineer. I know we have a lot of engineers in TEA. If you're an engineering student, everybody has above a 3.0 GPA. Everybody has roughly the same classes. Everybody's members of similar clubs. What I ask you to think about is what makes you unique. When that recruiter interviews 8 students throughout the course of the day, what is it that stands out with you? Might be your GPA, might be an interesting class. It's likely going to be an academic minor that you're passionate about. It's likely going to be a service project that you worked on, a creative project that you worked on. Maybe it's a club that not a lot of other students are interested in. It's the bottom part of your resume. The bottom part of your resume is where you typically stand out. If you're not solid on the top part of your resume with your education, your GPA, your classes, your internship, your work experience, that bottom may not matter too much. But when it's ultra competitive, employers and recruiters and alums are going to look at the bottom of their resume and say, what makes this person unique? And for some, it could just be an engaging personality. But to have your engaging personality shine through, you actually have to get that interview first. And sometimes it's that bottom of the interview. So when you think about what makes you unique, you also have to think about what is the employer actually looking for? What do they need? So you may have this great creative mind and you can design roller coasters. You got an amazing mechanical engineering background. And you really want to work for this company. They don't need your help. They already have a team who's dedicated to that. And they're not going to be hiring because at that particular organization, they only hired seasoned professionals. And they hire them away from other organizations. So you have to realize your dream job isn't going to come in that first job after college, the second job after college. This is why you need a network. You need to have conversations with professionals to understand, how did you get to where you are today? What skills do I need to develop? What advice do you have for me as a college student that will help me get to where you are? Because what you do sounds pretty cool. When we talk about creating your brands, we think about, the introspection piece. Now we're talking about your brand, and it's everything. That portfolio piece, the last bullet point, this is something that Jake does a phenomenal job at. And I know there's other members of the club who have their own websites, a Google site, a free Google site, a Wix website, somewhere where you could really allow somebody to deeply dive into who you are as a person, showcase your project work from classes, showcase your work in the club, showcase any creative projects that you have that have nothing to do with a club, with a class or work, just something you're passionate about. Once again, this is something that will make you stand out. When an employer has a stack of resumes and they're trying to make decisions, they're looking for any data point. I do this every year when we hire in the Center for Career Development. And if anybody has a website, it's one of the first things we take a look at because it really shows who they are and what their skills and qualities are. The other piece that I'll share with you, the social media conundrum is real. So if you use social media on a regular basis, my advice for you is to lock it down. And my other piece of advice for you is to be cautious. It's exciting and it's fun in college to live your life and to share your perspectives and share your thoughts. But I'll also share with you that recruiters, more commonly now than ever before, will be looking at your social profiles. And if you do have everything locked down, don't be surprised if they ask you for access or to be a friend or to be a connection so they can take a look at your social media. They make an investment in any new hire, whether it's an intern or a full-time position. So when you're thinking about, what's my social media profile? What do I look like online? Do a Google search for my name. What pops up? Make sure you manage your brand. It's one of the most important things you can have. If you're not familiar with Irish Compass is kind of like a private LinkedIn for Notre Dame. And if any of the information I share with you here, you're not familiar with, you're not sure, feel free to shoot me an email. We're certainly closed tomorrow for Good Friday. And then over the weekend, I'm going to be checking email occasionally, but it won't be too busy probably. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll try to get back to as quick as possible. The next piece is about learning about the industry. And it's it's much easier said than done, but it is all out there, but it does take time and effort. I know you can do it. Other members of your club have done this. We've done some phenomenal research about a year and a half ago that we're actually going to reinvigorate. We're actually doing quite a bit of work this summer on our website. We've been talking about this for a long time. We have a staff retreat coming up here in about a month, and it's going to be the spark for a lot of change after we did some of our winter session projects. If anybody was aware of the winter session projects that we did, we're actually going to be re-energizing a couple of them, and one of them is going to be related to our web-based resources. But here's a couple of things you're going to be seeing this summer here. This is work that Tess and Jake did. They've got a master spreadsheet of all the companies and industry contacts in TEA. So you have a list of every organization that's in TEA. You have a link of Notre Dame alums who are working in the field here, so you'll be able to identify them, find them on LinkedIn. They catalog their email addresses, companies that have a themed entertainment tie-in. It would take you a lot of time to do this work on your own. And thanks to Jake and Tess, they actually did all this work for you. So we're going to go ahead and package this and make it even more available, not only for you all, but also other students who are interested. TEA has a membership directory you're all aware of. Their job board is thin. I just literally screenshotted this right before our presentation tonight. You only have 9 jobs out there. It is seasonal, right? It's going to be cyclical, but also with just the uncertainty with COVID and the pandemic, there's not going to be too much hiring right now. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to network and create your own opportunities. IAPA also has a number of different job opportunities on their job boards. The other piece that I always share with members of TEA is anytime you're looking for organizations, think about organizations that are most committed to the profession. So we think of the profession of themed entertainment. IAPA is one of the largest expos, right? It's one of your largest professional conferences. Always look for that exhibitor list. So that exhibitor list basically references companies that have paid a lot of money to actually get their brand out there. So these are folks that care about their brand, they care about the professional development of their members, and they're more likely than not going to offer some type of opportunity. Whether it's published or not, they care deeply about the profession. You can also find opportunities on LinkedIn. So a lot of folks think it's just a networking site. LinkedIn actually has a job function. There's also other job posting boards. There's one called entertainmentcareers.net. So you might find more film, production, sound engineering, areas that maybe aren't going to be as tied directly into themed entertainment, but can have transferable skills. And the other piece that we always encourage students to take a look at are the career pages of any organization that you're interested in working for, not just the big brands, but look up any of the organizations that are maybe near you in a hometown where you're going to be over the summer, or it's an organization that fills a particular need. Maybe it's a design agency, maybe it's an engineering firm, maybe it's a consulting firm. Many of them will have some type of career page. If they don't have a career page, they'll at least have contact information. Other ways that you can do research, it's taking a look at other TEA clubs at other colleges and universities. So it's not just what are the clubs, what universities actually have these. Some of them, or the larger ones, are actually going to have listings of where their alumni are actually working in the field. So what that tells you is they may have a more direct connection or a personal connection to students from those universities, but you actually know that these companies actually hire alums from or college graduates. The other piece, this cannot be understated, is creating your own opportunity. So let's say you're looking at a particular organization and you say, wow, like this is in my hometown. It's a design consultancy agency. They do engineering work. They do project work. This is really cool. It looks like they only hire seasoned employees. Maybe they only have a team of 5 or 10 people. They're not going to be offering internships. Think creatively about this. And think about how you can offer support. If you think of your resume, an employer, recruiter, they're not going to spend too much time looking at the length of a project. When I'm looking at a summer experience, it doesn't matter to me if it was June to July or if it was May to August. A 2 or 3 week project, a job shadow, any type of experience that you can document can be meaningful. So if you're struggling with finding a summer internship, if you're planning on doing study abroad this summer, and now you're kind of up a creek and you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Look at organizations. Ask if they have any internship opportunities. And they say, no, sorry, we're not hiring any interns, or we've already hired our interns. Then the answer or the response is going to be, can I ask you a question? Is there any way that I can do work for you, even unpaid? I'm just looking for any kind of experience. Even just job shadowing from a week to see what it's like behind the scenes to work here. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for an experience and an opportunity. You're not going to have many college students asking for that. And for some students who recognize that there's a barrier, right? You need to make money. That's part of the reason you get a summer job or an internship. But also think of your future. Can you sacrifice 1 week or 5 days over the summer to do some type of a project? Can you do manual labor? Can you do landscaping? Can you do work in a local store? And then can you give an extra 8 hours a week to do some type of a project? And they're likely not going to give you a technical consulting project, but you could offer them the opportunity to do market research. Tell me who your competitors are, and I'll do a web research project for you and tell you where you fall short and where you succeed. I'll do market research for you and reach out to college students or local community members I'll talk to local business owners and talk to them about partnership opportunities. There are different ways that you can leverage your skills. Think about what value you can add. Well, we talk about networking. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Everything from Handshake. If you're not familiar with this on Handshake, there's actually a student community search, or if you make yourself public to the community, that's one of the privacy settings. You don't have to do it. But if you do make yourself public to the community, that means any user on Handshake can find you and see your profile. You can actually search for any other student who's on Handshake, which there's hundreds of thousands at other colleges and universities. And you could search for internship locations where they've worked or businesses where they've worked. So if you're wondering, hey, what does it take to work at a certain organization? You can do a search for them on Handshake and find that student, reach out to them, send them a message through Handshake even, connect with them and ask them about their experiences. Hopefully everybody in the club has a LinkedIn. If your LinkedIn connections are not over 300 by now, if you're a senior, we got to get cracking. If you're a first year student, you can get 100 pretty easily. If you're junior, you should have 200. Or excuse me, if you're a sophomore, you should have 200. If you're junior, you should have 300. By the time senior year rolls around, having 400 connections is pretty common. Common, when I say, is setting a very high bar. A lot of college students may not even have more than 100 or 200. But think about the Notre Dame network. A connection on LinkedIn is a badge of honor to some. If you're a graduating senior and you look at your connections and it's under 100, an employer may look at you and say, well, they're active, but maybe they're not all that well connected. There are more than 50 to 100,000 alums who are active. I shouldn't say active, but present on LinkedIn. Finding folks who you have something in common with, even if they're not Notre Dame alums, but other professionals in the field. All it takes is clicking a button and copying and pasting a brief message. I'm a sophomore at Notre Dame and very interested in themed entertainment, would love to connect with you. Thanks for your time. Hit the submit button. So my advice for you this weekend, you need to take rest, you need to relax, but also spend 30 minutes and challenge yourself. How many connections can you get in 30 minutes? How many connections can you send? And then 1 week later, how many of those have actually converted? There's no action that you need to take. You don't need to engage them in an ongoing conversation. All you're asking for is just to connect with them on LinkedIn. And if you're very shy, all you can do is just click the connect button and that'll be enough. But you got to take some effort here. When you think about networking, you may be a little bit confused on, I don't even know what to ask them. So I'm going to send them an email and say, hey, I'd love to network with you. Networking is just a conversation. It's finding something in common with somebody. And for you, something in common with an alum or a working professional is their line of work. So here's some suggestions on the screen. Certainly we'll breeze through these. I don't need to read them to you, but there's some ideas to practice.
Thank you.
Okay. And then interview practice, right? So after you're networking, after you get a chance to meet people and learn, and you decide I'm going to pursue this job opportunity and I want to make sure that I'm prepared for interviews, this is an area that our staff can help. If you haven't heard of Big Interview before, Big Interview is a free web-based interview practice tool that we offer. Very slick. You could do easy interviews, you could do difficult interviews. We have them across a bunch of different industries. It'll actually show a video of a person asking you a question, then you can record yourself. So you can go back and listen and watch and see how well did you actually perform. And I will guarantee you, if you've never watched yourself answer interview questions, you will be shocked. So it is a good thing to work on. My advice for students, before you have any in-person real interviews, or now what we're seeing are virtual interviews as first round interviews. These are very common. If you don't have at least 7 practice interviews in your back pocket, you might struggle. And you might be the best speaker. You might be able to answer the questions that you know and you're prepared for really, really well. But at some point, you're going to get stumped. And it's better to get stumped when you're doing practice interviews. The nice thing about this too is you can save your interviews or save your recordings and send the link to a friend and say, hey, will you watch this? Tell me what you think. It'd be a great tool and resource for TEA to work on. And then mock interviews. We do mock interviews with our staff. We can find alums to do mock interviews. If you hop onto Irish Compass, you can actually search for alumni who are interested in doing mock interviews with you, but you can never practice enough. And trust me when I say it makes a big, big difference. So I asked you these questions a little bit earlier. It's something to think about when you're going into your interviews. It's not about I'm the greatest person ever, I'm a very competent professional. It's what do you need? What can I bring to the table? And how do what you need and what I can bring to the table align? So think about it as a two-way street. It's not just about that job opportunity and you want to get that job opportunity. There needs to be something that makes you compelling. And in closing, I'll just share with you if you ever need additional guidance. If you're a first-year student, a sophomore, even a junior, and you're really not sure where to go, what to do, you're still trying to figure out your values, your interests, your skills, your personalities, the assessments that we offer don't make sense to you, that's where we're here. We're actually meeting with seniors for the first time here who are graduating in about a month and a half. They haven't had the time. They didn't realize that this would have been a good thing to start a little bit earlier. But if you're a first-year student, a sophomore, strongly encourage you to just get started in some way, shape, or form. Even that networking. Networking and talking to alums is one of the most powerful things you can do. So with that in mind, my contact info is on the screen. If there's anything I can do for any of you, I care deeply about this club. Otherwise, I wouldn't be your advisor. And certainly, I haven't seen a lot of you or many of you or even any of you for a very, very long time. And I apologize for that. But just know that I am here for you. If there's ever anything I can do for you, if I don't have an answer, I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can and let you know that I don't have an answer. We have a lot of folks on our staff who'd be more than happy to meet with you. Okay? So questions anybody has? Sorry, I rambled on there pretty long.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much. I know you can't see them, but we have other members here in the room that are also.
You got it, guys. Well, if there's anything I can do for you, feel free to let me know. I'm going to be around later tonight, too. So if you need to shoot me an email, if we need to hop on a Zoom, hop on a phone call, whatever I can do to support you, I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone here have a question that they want me to convey? If not, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, please.
So when you're connecting with a professional, if the conversation ever stalls and they stop responding and maybe you even asked a question, they're not responding, how long do you think is appropriate to wait to contact them again? And should you contact them multiple times or just be respectful and kind of back off?
Yeah, so if you're referencing an email, right, if you're asking them a few questions over email, maybe it's going back and forth. Mm-hmm. What I would typically advise is the introductory email is, I'd love to spend just a few minutes with you on the phone, 10, 15 minutes at the most, right? Try to have a phone conversation with them or a Zoom conversation with them. That way it's not a going back and forth on email, because what'll typically happen, and I'm guilty of this as well, right? Their email box gets filled up. They're like, I've already answered 5 questions. You're like, I don't know if there's another 10 questions coming or if maybe this is the last one. So they may just fall off the face of the earth and realize I'm getting really, really busy. I think the other piece to realize too, just with the pandemic and what's happened in the industry, it's also very possible these folks are under a lot of pressure. So you may not know why they're not responding. It could legitimately be their business is they're under some severe stress. And it could just be that they forgot, right? They get a lot of emails as professionals, adults, and you guys get probably more emails than they do. But I wouldn't press it, right? I'd just send one reminder and just say, hey, I'd just be I don't say apologetic, right? But I'd be apologetic and just say, hey, I know I shot you a note last week and I know it's really, really busy and I'm sorry for all the questions. So if you get a chance to respond, that'd be great. If you'd rather just have a quick 5-10 minute phone call, I would really appreciate that. But I also know you're really busy and I'd be more than happy to catch up with you at some time in the future. And leave it completely open-ended, always positive. Never, no matter how bad it goes, no matter if they get frustrated, if they send you a nasty email, if they don't respond, never take it out on an alum or a professional. Your brand is well too important, right? You might feel hurt. You're like, hey man, you said you were going to get back to me and you never did. You just don't put that in an email. Right? Just bite your tongue, send a nice email, right? That last email they should see from you should always be positive and should always be thank you so much for your time, regardless of how it pans out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great.
But awesome. I advise you, though, here's the scoop, right? I think with today's college student, it's very easy to do things via email, via social. And I was just talking to my son at dinner tonight about this. It's the way that college students right now communicate. Folks who are older, working professionals, maybe recent professionals would, but a lot of older folks just don't, right? So it's different for them. The other tangible piece of advice, if there's nothing else I can give you that is helpful for you, is your college career and building relations with faculty, administrators, and professionals. Never open an email with "hey," particularly to an alum or to a professional. Unless they reciprocate, unless they started off with a "hey," go ahead and reciprocate it. But otherwise, it's a "dear," "hello," "good afternoon," something a little bit more formal, right? So when you think of me, right, mid 40s, anytime I see it from a student who I hadn't really had a lot of contact with, if it's a club member, somebody I work with, fine, like I get it. But if it's some rando student who for the first time needs something like, "Hey, Ryan," like, I don't even know who the hell you are. Like, that's not how you communicate with an adult, right? So part of this is learning tact and etiquette, and hopefully that's just a good tip for you. You can never go wrong with a "dear." You can never go wrong with a "good morning," "good afternoon," right? It'll actually make you stand out.
Awesome, thank you.
You got it.
I think one of our students here has a question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
So a little bit on kind of like what you were just saying. A lot of these professionals, when we reach out to them, they probably get lots of emails from students looking to network and asking those questions. Like, is there any like way specifically that we can stand out in that like first interaction email?
Yep.
So they remember us when we reach out more than maybe like another student.
Yes, that is a great question. I really appreciate you asking that. So my advice for you is do your homework on the individual and identify in that email something about that person. So let me brainstorm here, right? Michael Mercadante, right? He's past president of TEA, or maybe he's current president of TEA, right? But dear Mr. Mercadante, welcome, or greetings from your alma mater at the University of Notre Dame, or greetings from Alumni Hall on your home campus, right? So there's something that's a personal tie in at first. And if you're talking to somebody who's not a Notre Dame alum, greetings from Northern Indiana, right? Something that is a little bit more personal than "I am a sophomore mechanical engineering major who wants to talk to you," right? That's where how a lot of students are probably going to open that up. So open it with the personal piece and just say, I was reviewing profiles online of professionals working in the field, and I noticed where you've been at Main Street Designs for the last 13 years, and you've worked on projects such as ... and ... right? You don't have to go into a big resume, but there's something in there that says, I've actually researched you, and this isn't just a random cold email. Like, there's a reason I want to talk to you. And then what you follow it up with are no questions, no series of questions, no bullet points. It's, I was hoping to have 10 to 15 minutes of your time, right? No more than 15 minutes. The call, to be honest with you, will likely go a half hour to an hour if it kind of starts off on the right way. But all you're asking for is 10 to 15 minutes of their time. I was hoping to find 10 or 15 minutes of your time at your convenience, anytime in the next month, so I could just learn more about the field and just discern if this is an area of a career path that I'm interested in pursuing. I've had recent conversations with Bop and Bop, right? If you can find those people on LinkedIn that they're connected with, great. Maybe there's some kind of a natural connection there, or you've done some research and you've known they've worked on a project together. That's a natural connection. But all you're asking for is time for a call. If you can give them actual times when you're available, typically I'm available any Friday afternoon, and I'm available any evening, typically after 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'd be more than happy to arrange my calendar to best meet your needs, right? Give them some options without giving them like, here's 13 times that I'm available. Give them some variety or give them some broad options so it doesn't have to be a back and forth, right? Don't say, please let me know when you're free. When I get that, I'm like, I have no idea when you're free. Like, I'm not going to type out my schedule here for you. But if you tell me that I'm free during these times, I could probably pick out a 15-minute block and say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm really busy now, but I can do it at the end of April. And if it's that important, you'll wait till the end of April. So hopefully that helps. But the ask is not a bunch of questions. It's, I want a phone call. Because also a lot of college students probably won't be asking for a phone call. They'll all want to do it via email. And that's another way you'll stand out. But you got to make it personal.
Yeah, it's really great insights. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And here's the other piece too, right? If you guys want to do this as a TEA project, whether it's this spring or next fall, if you guys want to do a little bit of brainstorming and say, hey, here's 3 or 4 different emails that our first years and our sophomores has came up as like a kind of a practice thing, and our upper class students looked at them and we kind of think these are good ones and we want somebody else to look at them, shoot them over to me. I'm more than happy to give you some advice and say, this one is awesome. This one could use a little bit of work. It's these little things that make a huge difference.
Yeah, I definitely think we'd be interested in doing that, having like a template for all of our students to work off of and personalize a little bit. That would be great.
Be good. I mean, here's the other thing too, right? If you have a passion, if you're passionate about a particular organization, don't think about who the CEO is, who the leader, who the director is, right? Think about the new professional. Think about who's somebody who's been there for 3 or 4 years. Those are the people who usually aren't going to get reached out to all that often. It's going to be the leader that everybody sees. Oh, this is the president of the company. Everyone wants to talk to the president of the company. Not a lot of people want to talk to the person who does the work behind the scenes. And if you email the president 6 months later and said, hey, I had conversations with your carpenter and your technical analyst, like they're going to read that and say, wow, like you've actually talked to people at my company. That's pretty cool. And that says a heck of a lot more than I have a 3.9 GPA and, I had an internship last summer at GE. So.
Is there ever anything we should do in that situation to ensure that they don't think we're violating the privacy of the company in any way? Or is it just that we won't?
I think as long as you pitch it as completely networking. Okay. I had networking conversations with, right? It's not a, hey, I interviewed your staff members and I really want to talk to you, right? Because I think that could come across very, very awkward. You just say that, hey, I'm a college student. I'm really learning about the field and getting really excited about this. I've talked to somebody at this company, and I've actually talked to a couple of your staff members in specialized areas. And I'm just trying to network as much as I can. Like people in the industry recognize, in any industry, they recognize that networking is critical. So if you say I'm just expanding my network and trying to learn, like anybody who would email me that, I'd say, I'll find time for you. You want to network and find out about my job so I can tell you what I do? Like, who doesn't want to talk about themselves?
Very cool. Well, does anyone have any other last minute questions? Oh, we got more.
I have one. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So you've sent out that first email out. Maybe you've already had the 10, 15-minute phone call. What do you do after that? How do you maintain those connections?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would do is within 2 days after that phone call, right? You don't want to do it like minutes afterwards, but I'd say it's a best practice either later that night or first thing the next morning. Personal email, doesn't have to be very long, but it's got to be more than just thank you. But dear Ms. Jones, I just want to say thank you so much for your time yesterday. What you shared with me about XYZ was very meaningful. And I really took that to heart, right? You've got to reference something that you actually talked about. This is important too for interviews. After you have a follow-up interview, it's not, thank you for your time in the interview. I look forward to hearing about the process and becoming a strong candidate. No. It's thank you for the interview. I appreciated talking to you about this. And when you asked me this question, it really got me thinking about how I can make a difference for your organization, right? There needs to be something personal more than just a bland thank you. I get these cards all the time for people who interview for us. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I'm really excited. Regards. And it's like, you put no thought in this. You probably wrote this before you even had the interview. So find something that you actually talked about and reference it. You don't have to go into depth, but at least reference that, oh, wow, that really stuck with the student. We talked about 3 things, and this is the thing that they actually mentioned. And then you could just say, I look forward to keeping in touch, right? And then if it's somebody who you really think, like, this is somebody that I want to keep in touch with, right? Send them a Christmas card. Legitimately, like, send them a Christmas card. And if Christmas isn't your thing, right? Happy New Year in January. Hi, dear Miss Jones. I just want to wish you a happy new year in 2022. Hope things go great for you. Thanks again for your time last July during our conversation. I still found it very enlightening. Have a great day. Regards, Ryan. That's it. Right? And you're front of mind, right? Your peace of mind. You're not saying like, I look forward to finding out if there's any opportunities in the future. As hard as it is, don't look at networking as the end in mind is, I need to ask you for a job, or I need to ask you for an interview, or ask you for an internship, right? If you're good and you network, and if they have something, it may come up. But if you have like 3 conversations, at some point after that 3rd conversation, you could say, as I'm looking at different opportunities, just wasn't sure if there's any organizations that you think would be looking for talent around this time, knowing that you have knowledge of this industry or this sector, but you can't fire that off as your first question, and you can't fire it off as your reminder question because they'll see right through you. And it could even be the other thing that I'll share too, whether it's not Christmas, New Year's, make a note in your calendar that we had this conversation on April 1st, 2021. And then next April 1st, 2022, dear Miss Smith, greetings from Notre Dame. Not sure if you remember me or not. We had a conversation a year ago. I was just going through my calendar and I saw your name and I just wanted to say thanks again. Right? Just little stuff like that. Like, you're not asking for anything. You're not asking for a reply at all. But they'll remember you. Sorry to wait.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No question on that last. This is like a simple question. Like, if we were to do that, like you mentioned, like the year after thing and reminder, should we do that on the same email thread or just a new email?
No, I do it as a completely new email thread. Completely new email thread. Unless you had an ongoing, like if you've had contact like every 3 or 4 months maybe, or there's been kind of a banter back and forth, you can keep it in the same thread. There's nothing wrong with reopening that thread a year later. That's fine because it might actually refresh their memory. But I actually think it's more exciting if you just send a fresh email, because if I got a fresh email and I didn't recognize Caitlin's email or Caitlin's name, I'm like, Caitlin, why do I know this name? And then I'll check me. I'm like, oh yeah, we just had a conversation. We did this a year ago. We did this with TEA, right? So it's a little bit different, right? If it's in the thread, it's like, what does she want now, right? But if it's a fresh email, it's a, wow, she's emailing me about something, like something's going on. Or the other thing that I would share with you too is if you can build these relationships professionally. This is where it takes time, right? And this is, if you really want to stand out, you read the news, you follow the news, you subscribe to news alerts related to that company. And when there's a news announcement, you're on LinkedIn, which you're not going to see too many news reports about themed entertainment LinkedIn, but you will from time to time with the big companies. If there's something big and you've had a relationship with them or you've talked at least a couple times, shoot them a note, right? Congrats on the merger. Hey, I just read about the merger. Congratulations. I wish you all the best, right? You don't have to go into detail, and there's no ulterior motive. You just want to say, thanks, congratulations. In their mind, it's like, wow, like I didn't give very many congratulations from anybody, and I got this one from a college student. It's going to make you stand out. Make it genuine though, right? Don't be too artificial. Other questions?
Any more? I think that's it from us in the room, unless anyone on the call has another one. But if not, I just want to say one more time, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. I'm sure we all appreciated learning all that information. I know I definitely learned new stuff that I will be trying to apply as soon as possible.
Well, if there's anything you guys need, I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you. I know it's really busy for you. I know it's a crazy semester. Last thing you want to be on is another Zoom. But you got it recorded. I'll send you the slide deck right after this. Legitimately, anything you ever need, let me know. There are sometimes I get a little bit busy, so I apologize if it takes me a little bit of time to get back to you. But know that I do care about you and I want to see you succeed. And if there's anything I can do, just say the word.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you guys. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
See ya.